get through today, so call the meeting to order at 12:02. And we need to do oaths of office, looks like.
Yes, we do. Could I have Mike, Brian, Jerry, Dow, Steve, and Aaron all stand and raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that you support... Oh, Marty. Okay, do I have? Okay, well, I'll take care of them. 5. Do you all solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of this state, and that you will faithfully perform the duties of BLT in and for the City of Whitehall, County of Muskegon, and State of Michigan according to the best of your ability?
I will.
Fantastic. I'll have you sign your oaths, and then I'll take them. And thank you very much.
All right, I need approval of agenda for today.
I'll move for the approval of the agenda as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Scott, election of officers.
Yes, we annually elect officers. We elect a chair, a vice chair, a secretary, and a treasurer, and you typically also appoint a director. Currently, Mr. Copley is the chair, Mayor Salter is the vice chair, I'm the director secretary, and Alyssa is the treasurer. So we just open up the floor for any nominations. You can do them one at a time or en masse.
I would make a motion we select the present slate. Colby as chair, Salter as vice chair, Huber director secretary, and treasurer Seaver.
Still support.
Are we sure about one of those names?
You can, you never know.
If there are no other nominations, we'll just call for a vote. Roll call. I don't think we need a roll call.
Okay. So we need support?
No, we have support.
Yes.
Oh, we have support. All right, I guess we just do all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right, amended agenda, special presentation. Tannery Bay update, Mick.
Thank you. Sitting there just thinking, 20 years, a little bit more than 20 years ago, I came up to Whitehall and visited with Scott and with Matt and looked at this old building that's set there right along Lake Drive where Tannery Bay is now. And I got a tour of the building with somebody from environmental team. I don't know if Eagle was there at that point in time, and going through this old building, and a bit of a scary old building. I don't think you've ever been through that, but it was a unique and old building. And that began a long period of time of figuring out what to do with this site, which is now Tannery Bay. So I'm here today to say thank you to the City of Whitehall, particularly thank you to Scott, who has been long suffering through an awful lot of things with the project. It's been a fun project for us as we finally got going, but from when I first came there in 2003 through to about 2017, it was working with Eagle, working with Genesco, trying to solve the myriad of little problems. But we're beginning a milestone coming up this spring. We'll be developing our last little phase, which will come out to the north there for about another 15 homes along the lake. And it's been a unique and fun project. And we've got a couple people here from that live there, and I think we've had great customers. They've lived with us through headaches here and there, but it's been very good. One of the little things that that came up was, where do we put some access? And as it turned out, it became better, I think, from our perspective, I think from the city's as well, to give the city a site. So we gave the city a site of about 1 3/4 acres. It's up on the very north end. That happened at the end of last year. And I also agreed to give a check to the city to help with the development of that into a park. So I'm also here today, Daryl, to hand you a check for $30,000 and say best of luck to you. I've also agreed to help with a little bit of grading in there to get that going. I have no idea of the preciseness of when you're going to start into that, if there's even a timetable at this point in time. But again, just want to say thank you to all of you for working with us on that project. Spent a little time with Steve on it. We came to our party, what was that, 18 months ago or so. We had a great time. But again, Scott, and I only wish Mac was here because he was very passionate about trying to see something happen there. And I don't know how many times we had to go to drive over to Lansing, but 10, 20 times, Scott, what do you think? That we had to get over to Lansing or have meet?
20 times a year.
A year, yeah. There's a lot of work from an awful lot of people. We worked with the PAC, we worked with the White Lake Advisory Board, and I think in the long run, we ended up with something, as I remember back looking at the old building, and we had visions of remodeling it at one point in time. We had visions of 4 high-rise buildings at one point in time. And maybe the 13 years it took from the time we first visited there to really getting going, or 14 years, was a time that was frustrating for me. I started that project as a young man. I was 53, I'm now 74. And if somebody had told me that I'd be 74 before I start getting to the last phase, I go, I'm out. So it's been a long journey, but a good journey. But it allowed us, I think, that time frame to develop something that I'm uniquely proud of. And I think it's a great community, again, with great new residents for the city of Whitehall. So just thanks to all of you, and thanks to Scott. And
Should we get a picture of this?
Thank you, appreciate that.
It's don't want to get any dinners in there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McGraw. Appreciate it. Thank you.
I can say, Mick, that somebody who's worked at Howmet for almost 35 years, I remember the old building, and you're right, it was a pretty scary looking building at the time, so.
There's an arch somewhere, maybe you recall this, that somebody carved into the concrete, I don't know when, said, "Welcome to hell," and going down below in this thing, and I'm going, I think when I saw that, the remodeling idea kind of left me at that point in time. But it does have a great old history. We did save some of the artifacts which the Historical Society has, which even though it has its troubles attached to it, it was a location and a building, a significant thing in this community for 100 years.
Yeah, long time. Thank you. Public informational hearing.
Yes, sir. State law requires that any TIFs, whether it be a DDA, a Brownfield, an LDFA, a TIFA, or commercial enterprise zone, hold at least 2 public informational meetings per year. There are absolutely no guidelines. I've talked to other communities, and everybody does it 600 different ways. It's just basically an open forum for some brief information, which was included in your packets. And if there's any questions or comments from the public, we could do it here or later on during public comment. So it's a check. It's a legal check box we are taking care of.
What would you recommend? Doing it now or doing it later? You have a recommendation?
It's your meeting, it's your pleasure.
Threw that right back. I think I'll defer till later when we normally do public comment. Thank you. All right, I need approval of the October 2023 meeting minutes. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to look at that. I have.
So moved.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we'll move to communications, walk the beat requests.
think you have a letter requesting a sponsorship of $3,000. Mr. Goff is in the audience if you've got any questions. We did provide a sponsorship last year. This would be something you can give support for it right now, but the actual appropriation would be in your fiscal year 24-25 budget, which starts July 1st. But if you're supportive of it, Mr. Goff would probably appreciate hearing that today, and it wouldn't be official until the budget is adopted by you and then followed up by adoption by the city council.
Scott, what was the amount last year that?
I think it was,
Received.
I don't have my budget here. I think it was about the same amount, wasn't it? All right, we're gonna make Alyssa run and get that answer.
Okay.
And I don't know, Mr. Goff, if you remember?
3,000.
It was, yeah, 3,000, same as last year.
Question I have for, just for discussion of the board, is, and I've been on with this group up here for a few years now. Since that time, it seems like we're getting more increases for donations like this. I've been down to the event, and it's a great time, so I think that's, it's great. How much, I think we get into a slippery slope if we get a lot of groups that want to do an event in Whitehall, downtown Whitehall, asking for money. Where do we pick and choose? And is the TIFA board the right board to be, where this TIFA monies go to infrastructure improvement, other things? Again, I don't know what the right or wrong answer is.
I would say that the TIFA board is probably the most appropriate board to fund any events in the downtown area. Your focus has been on infrastructure, but you're also there to promote the downtown and the entire district. And with Mr. Copley's approval, I was very impressed with the numbers Mr. Goff had presented Tuesday night at this council meeting. I was not aware of the economic impact that the event had, so I don't know, Mr. Copley, if you'd allow Mr. Goff a couple of minutes to run through those numbers.
Sure.
As far as a return on investment, I think the $3,000 is worth it.
Good afternoon, and thank you for letting me cover this. So when it comes to giving back to the community, when we're all involved in volunteering and all that, we look at the impact and how many different areas are affected. So Walk the Beat, because of the festival itself, these things wouldn't happen unless the Walk the Beat festival is going on. And because of the Walk the Beat festival, we were able to award $5,200 to 19 area students in the White Lake area in the form of scholarships and also music equipment. 13 of our local nonprofit organizations were able to participate in Walk the Beat. And because of their participation, they were able to raise basically $8,000 for their cause. We estimated, we used 3 different techniques to try to get some kind of an idea of the impact on the community from an economic standpoint. We estimated there were about 3,500 people that attended Walk the Beat. And we had one business say that that's the most sales they've ever had in one day. So it's a huge economic impact. 38 mostly local music acts were able to play at Walk the Beat, which was of great enjoyment by all of our residents, and also provided an opportunity for those 38 music acts to show their wares and get additional bookings and get better recognition. So it was a big benefit to the bands themselves. 75 people who attended Walk the Beat are able to apply for free door prizes, and 75 of our attendees won $4,000 in door prizes due to Walk the Beat. And then we had a pleasantly surprised grandmother in her late 70s won the $5,000 raffle prize. And this year we're looking to break that up into first, second, and third place. So the event does have a pretty big impact on the community, as well as it's a great festive environment for our residents. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Kevin. Other discussion?
Could I ask a follow-up question? I mean, I love Walk-the-Bay. I think that, I'm not surprised that it had that impact. But are there other events that TIFA dollars sponsored throughout the year, just from a perspective to a new board member?
We also, we used to assist financing of the fireworks, Arts Council of White Lake, and I don't know who the fourth was. I think there's 4 that we currently sponsor.
Thank you.
Are we looking for a motion for the $3,000?
Okay, are we looking for a motion?
The motion would be to give it consideration in the next fiscal year, not actually to appropriate it today.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll give that motion.
Support.
Yeah.
Second.
Do we do roll call on this one? Because it's money,
No,
or
'cause you're
for
not-
this time,
you're
we're just
just
doing
giving-
support?
Just,
Yeah.
Okay.
Directing staff to.
Yep, all right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Like we carried, Scott. 104 North Thompson purchase agreement.
Yes, just by way of an update, we have completed our due diligence. One part was the survey, no surprises from the survey. And the Phase 1 environmental came back with no real surprises. The only items that came up were, there seems to be a gap between 1938 and 1970 as far as any type of due care or environmental review of the site. It's kind of interesting because they went back to 1892. They were able to actually trace the history of that site back that far ago. So that, and in 2008, baseline environmental assessment documented some soil contamination at the property. The recommendation, there's nothing that, in my opinion, and I think in our environmental review from Brandon Newhoff would, say, drop the project back out of it. What they are recommending is that we do some ground penetrating radar to see if the underground storage tanks are still there, and that we go through and do a baseline environmental assessment with the due care plan, so that if during any of the work we're doing there, we run into any soil contamination or groundwater contamination, we already have a plan in place to remediate that. All told, it'll be about an extra $20,000. But again, we'll wait until we get those actual proposals from Prine and Newhoff before we bring them back to the board. But just letting you know, there's nothing either from a survey or an environmental perspective that I think we should back out of this deal. But there is going to be, some additional steps, much like what we took when we purchased the Deneke property, the house next to that, as well as the old restaurant that used to be right on the corner of River and Lake. The Phase 1 right now, that gives us a very high degree of protection from any liability for whatever is currently in the ground. So that's just by way of update. Like I said, we'll bring back the actual proposal probably at your April meeting to move forward with those 2 additional environmental assessments.
All right. All right, West, hold on, I gotta go to the amended, make a note on the other one. Fiscal year 23-24 amended budget.
If we'll start with the 2 easy ones. LDFA, which I included basically a summary sheet of it, and the Brownfield. The only, and it's not really even significant, minor changes are that our investments are doing quite well citywide. We are a member of CLASS, did I get that right tonight? Which is a municipal pooling, a pooled municipal account, where we're earning quite a bit of interest on those investments, as well as we've started to do a lot of CD investments. Probably 2-3 years ago, we were actually paying our former financial institution for not our investments, our holdings, if you will. So we've gone from losing money to actually doing quite well with our investments. The TIFA is kind of it's been fun with the TIFA budget, because a lot of your budget was based upon some grant receipts. And just going off of that first page, I'll just run down top to bottom, is that our tax revenues and our local community stabilization funds are still tracking as to where we budgeted them. And for the two new members, I know we're probably a whole different language we're throwing at you today. Local community stabilization is the reimbursement for the elimination of a majority of personal property taxes at the state level. And that hit TIFA pretty hard, as you can see, $1 million, because of all of the industrial personal property was, for the most part, tax exempt at the local level. So the state does reimburse us. The politicians, no offense to those in the audience or up on the board, but the politicians at the state level guaranteed we'd be receiving 100%. But I guess Lansing considers 80 to 85 the same as 100%. So we have not been made whole, but at least we've gotten a significant portion of that lost revenue back. Under grants, you can see in the first column we had budgeted $105,000. Those were primarily DNR grants. We were 0 for 4 on DNR grants, but we did receive a RAP grant, and I'd have to look that up. Revitalizing, is that like the one file I didn't bring with me? We joined a group in West Michigan. There was about 8 communities that went through and submitted a collaborative grant application, and we received $247,000 for the West Colby Promenade. And the one below that is the Community Foundation also gave us $20,000. So we lost $105 in state funding, but we got $267,000 in federal and local funding. And as you can see, our interest earnings, we budgeted less than 10 grand, and we're tracking to earn about 30,000. Then we had a small transfer sale of fixed assets. So on the top half, our revenue is up almost $200,000, which is good. As you go down through the bottom part, the administrative costs are still tracking. The Goodrich Park project, we eliminated the wireless Wi-Fi. And I think we've talked about this before, the lights we were going to do just in the marina, but we decided to do the entire park, so that project went from 48 to 94,000. The poles, and I know council members have asked this once or twice, they are due to be delivered early March, and we should have all those poles installed by the end of March. That's what we're hearing from the contractor at this point. Swing set fencing, security cameras, sign, grill, plaque, those have all been eliminated at this point. The irrigation repairs have been taken out of the TIFA budget, and those will be funded from the general fund. The city had a sale of some lakefront property of $105,000, and the city council said, let's put that towards park. So $10,000 of that is going to go to repair the irrigation system in Goodrich Park. The parking lot addition, I won't grouse about the guy sitting behind me, but the $10,000, that's the engineer and his estimates. The $10,000 was probably my wild guess, but the parking lot addition at Goodrich Park is going to be $129,000. It's the parking lot as you pull in, the very first one to the right, we're basically going to double the size of that one. Because we've seen a lot of additional use at the park, especially with the splash pad. We were hopeful to get the parking lot closer to the splash pad, but there's a lot of infrastructure underground and above ground that kind of made that impossible. Yes, sir?
Is that going to take a lot of fill? Because that kind of, after that parking lot, it kind of drops off grade-wise.
I'm not sure, Dan?
Not really. Honestly, not much. I mean, just a little bit of regrading, but not a lot of fill.
All right.
And
Good question.
since we went there, Dan Sork is with Prime and Newhoff. He is our primary municipal engineer. The Marina West Pier repairs, we eliminated that. The interesting part is that was a federal grant, and they considered the pier a sidewalk, and sidewalks weren't eligible. Even though I argued that it wasn't a sidewalk, it was a pier. They just saw a plan with concrete and made a false assumption on that and didn't listen to our explanation. The fishing dock repairs, we went from 60,000 to 110. We've actually got those plans on my desk. They look really good. The ADA accessibility is going to be way better than it was before. And I think we're on track to get those bid out already or soon?
They're out to bid now.
Okay. The chamber contract and the downtown restroom rental is the same as it always has been. Phase 5 is our next generation of the downtown improvements. The pocket park has gone from $137,000 to $333,000. One significant change there is that the loo, we talked about doing that, was actually more expensive than, I guess, a stick-built one.
Brick and mortar. yeah.
Brick and mortar built one. And we talked about that had some limited winter capabilities because it was more of an open facility, not to anybody passing by and viewing, but as far as air circulation. The Spring Street parking lot actually came down significantly from 420 to 269. The Division Street parking lot went from 10,000 to 68,000. We've taken out the West Colby Promenade, even though we're going to talk about that now, because the purchase agreement with Amy and Neil Martell allows them to operate until the middle of August. Every indication is that they are going to operate until the middle of August, so that will be in next fiscal year. And the plan would be that to have that as a late fall project, whatever we decide to do down there. Building demolition and then development of that West Colby Promenade. Sound system downtown has been removed. On your next page, the engineering stays the same. Facade grants, we haven't had any takers yet this year. Engineering on Brownfield is the same, the pass-throughs. That's, oh, there you go. All I had to do was turn a couple of pages. The other is the Fireworks Arts Council. It's the History Cruise is what we also sponsor, as well as Walk the Beat. Transfer to inspections is the same. The land acquisition, that is now the acquisition of the Big John's property. And then the downtown streetscape, that remains the same. And that's primarily our annual maintenance, replacing banners, snow plowing, any light fixtures in the downtown. So with all those changes, we go from 2.2 million to 2.2 million. So our expenses are pretty much the same. What that does is that will increase our fund balance by a couple of $100,000. And we'll still be at just shy of $1 million projected year-end 24. There's no action required by the TIFA board. You know, it's always a timing thing because the city council did approve all of these Tuesday night at their council meeting with the mid-year budget adjustments. So unless there's any questions, and there is.
Could you please, I guess I'm not sure the pocket park now, is that in between the buildings down there? There used to be a road.
The alleyway, that'll be between Catchmark and Bell's Furniture.
Okay, and what do you envision there?
That is going to be, there's going to be a public bathroom, there's going to be an art wall. We're working with the Arts Council on putting up some type of a mural, not like the trestle. This will be a jury. It will also be some pedestrian seating. There will be some vegetation. It's just going to be kind of a nice little spot to hang out downtown.
We will now have a real bathroom.
We will now have a real bathroom. And that will allow us to terminate the lease with Whitehall Ventures for the bathroom that's on the back of the Arts Council building. And I think there's probably some good plans for reuse of those restrooms.
So you think the bathroom is what caused that $333,000 versus $137,000?
No, actually, the loo was about, the difference was about $20,000 between the loo and the bathrooms.
Yeah.
It's just, I think when they got down to doing a lot more engineering, and, you know, the price of things are just crazy nowadays. I don't think we've seen any type of settling of, you know, the post-COVID shortages and supply chain issues.
Okay.
But that's an engineering estimate. We're always excited when the engineer's estimates are on the high end of the bids.
Yeah. I guess I have a hard time getting a vision of going in there and sitting and hanging out. It just, I don't, you know.
Well, there's going to be some shade aspects and vegetation. It's just something that we've had in our plan forever. We actually talked about two of them. The other one would be to the west of Pub 111. We've talked to that owner about, you know, they don't necessarily have to. The city council basically just approved that as well as the outdoor seating and fetch. And if you remember, the state initially came out with temporary outdoor seating for during COVID. Then they're now calling it permanent temporary outdoor seating. I don't know why they had to keep temporary, but, so it's permanent temporary outdoor seating unless the city council chooses otherwise.
I could get a page 2 of the TIFA, oh, it's on the backside.
There you go.
I didn't flip it
Same
over.
paper.
Never mind. Saving paper, good
Yep.
job.
Any other communications, Scott?
No, sir.
Okay, we'll move to unfinished business, West Colby, Promenade.
Yeah, I'll probably turn it over to Dan. You've got on your desk the initial plan. Not the initial, it went through a number of changes. But the latest, with the inclusion of Big John's, we made a number of adjustments to try and accommodate some of the requests that Big John's actually presented to us. So Dan's here to talk about what do you want it to look like now. The one that I gave you shows in yellow, faded yellow, sometimes our copiers don't come out real strong, is the actual Big John's building. The red is the approximation of their property lines. And then the blue is the DTE, and I think that actually moved, Dan, from the
Oh, did
plans.
it? Okay.
That's the
Utility
valve.
enclosure?
Yeah, that's the valve gate for DTE. So we're kind of back at maybe a blank slate, but I don't know if I want to go that far. I don't know if the TIFA board wants Dan to just come back with whatever he thinks we should have down there. My 2 cents is we probably don't need the parking lot, or at least maybe not one that big. What other amenities we want to add or remove would be up to the TIFA board. And as you can see, a lot of that is actually in the highway right-of-way, everything to the east side of that red line. So Big John's parking lot is actually encroaching with the permission of DOT. So Dan, it's all yours.
Sorry, it looks like you got colorized versions of, and Scott got crayons out on your versions. I didn't colorize mine, I apologize. But quick history, yeah, this has gone through quite a number of iterations, but our task that we were given was to build a connection from downtown to Goodrich Park, essentially, a walking path, a ADA accessible walking path, and build some sort and have some sort of feature there that had possible for artwork, for seating. So that was our initial, goal. The parking lot was then added at the request of others. There was no parking lot initially. Then the parking lot grew bigger and bigger. There was a dumpster enclosure added. So that was not even part of our original scope when we were first tasked to do some design for this West Colby Promenade here. But other features on this is a gateway sign. Basically on the outside corner there, we had envisioned a masonry sign that, welcome to Whitehall, that it could become a changeable message sign someday, with some landscaping along that outside corner there where Colby turns into Thompson. That's on this plan still. We had already talked to MDOT about relocating some of the traffic signage that is already there. There's some emergency US 31 signage. They'd already agreed to say that, okay, that could be removed. The big yellow arrow signs must remain, so we have to work around those. We understand that. But we can still have that big sign. So I would envision that original task would probably still remain, but we would love to hear feedback from this board and others about what other amenities that the rest of that property now opens up. And just from what I see being the site being used as is obviously pedestrian usage, heavy pedestrian usage during parades, during fireworks. There's a minimum 3 parades during the year, if not 4. So there's a lot of pedestrian traffic. We also understand human beings and pedestrians. That's why we designed a stair access, a non-ADA, if you will, because humans are going to walk the shortest route. So we did build a direct route down to the bottom as well, because otherwise it is a hill, and it would create a path that would likely become eroded. But I would still envision an ADA accessible ramp. It has to become a winding surface, a long circuitous route to get down to the bottom to make it ADA accessible. We try to put some seat wall along the side for some seat wall / retaining wall built into the side of the hill there along the edge of that ramp, that again would be used for people to sit and watch either the fireworks, or maybe even, I don't know, not down along that ramp there for the parades, because the parades are along Colby and Thompson. But people are going to be, again, gathering. We would envision that, but again, we would love to hear feedback from you on what other things that you would like to see changed, because we've got time now between now and August to redesign this, and especially that northern half of that site, the northern and eastern half of that site.
Any thoughts on the Big John's property? What's going to happen there?
What we know is that the building is going to be removed, and Scott alluded to, and we've done some preliminary studies on the soils. That was originally a gas station. I don't know about originally, but at one point in time there was a gas station there. As Scott mentioned, when we did our environmental research, there is a gap in time, and we're not positive if the fuel tanks were removed from the site.
Right.
So that's why we're asking to do a ground penetrating radar to determine if the fuel tanks are still there or not. So we would not want to disturb the soil a lot, to do a lot of earth change there, but there is a retaining wall there already.
Okay, so could we put that whole red area, is there room to put some parking up in there? Is it accessible to get in there? Maybe remove this parking lot down below, and the area where the parking lot is, and next to that, maybe put, I don't know, picnic tables or something out there for people just to hang out. I don't know.
We can look at that, but you wouldn't gain a whole lot of area from the current parking lot, and the current parking lot is difficult with an entrance and exit, because basically the Thompson Street side is the entrance and Colby Street is the exit. So that exit portion would be eliminated. What we'd be looking at is how do we incorporate that extra property into our plans, and not that we have to sign off on anything today. You can always give me, email me your ideas, and we can, be in contact with Dan and his people. Ideally, we have something approved in April, at your April meeting, as far as, there's always time to tweak things a little bit, but some final designs and concepts that you can sign off on so that we can get bid documents out in hopes of having a fall construction.
Scott, have we had any opportunity to collaborate with the Flats ownership team in order to, maybe on this descending accessible space?
Yeah,
I'm sure some of the residents would want to move from the front to the back, and
Yeah.
how might those properties work together to be visually and community accessible?
Yeah, absolutely. We have been having discussions. In fact, I've had some emails with Mr. Chris Veneclausen. He was asking, what are the plans now? And I says, I don't know, because we're still working on them. But we are working with them as far as matching up their plans with our plans. There will be a street level walkout for that facility, a little bit more to the east. But we also had envisioned, I think their plans and some of our earlier plans had some connecting sidewalks so that the people on the lower level can, either head over to Goodrich Park or back up downtown or over to the, the Promenade area. So, yes, we are working with those developers.
I've seen in Grand Haven, they have like a tiered seating with some concrete in which they hold events that bring in, tons of people for concerts on Friday nights, which would generate revenue for the city, it seems, and bring people beyond just parades. So I'd be interested to hear what, the city and the team has envisioned for the types of events other than just accessibility and green space. How might we bring in some entertainment, some activity?
Could look at that. One of the concepts on that was, like a grassy hill type seating, but it's a drop off. We'd have to bring in a lot of fill, and when you bring in fill, you kind of lose some of the stage area, if you will. But we can take a look at that, see what we can do as far as some sort of tiered seating.
I'd love to see that kind of option looked at as far as tier seating there. But I also look on here and I don't see any trees. Now, there's some pretty beautiful old trees down there. Is there plans to remove those trees?
Well, this plan as it is now, the parking lot ended up removing all of those trees that are there now. And I think we were trying to save as many as we could with our original plan, but the parking lot ended up eliminating a lot of those trees. But that all can be changed now.
Pass this down. Yeah, the original plan, we were looking at saving pretty much all of the trees. In our discussions with Neil and Amy, they had asked for some of the trees to be removed so that people sitting on their deck would have a better view of the lake. And that was one of the many items we accommodated for them. But I think when we go back to the drawing board, we're going to save those trees. I think they're probably all still healthy, Brian?
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much, and probably add vegetation.
I'm mostly concerned about the tall pines that are there. Certainly don't want to see those go away. The other trees that you're referring to, I don't think those are of much value. I think they're probably close to their lifetime anyhow. I'd be happy to see those go, but the pines, not at all.
If we could move that parking, some of that parking up along the property on Thompson there, we could probably eliminate maybe all or half of that lower parking lot, and that's kind of where the trees are, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure with the doubling of the parking lot in Goodrich, how much additional parking we would need. I think the first plan had about 4 or 6 parking spaces. And of course, I was questioning, you're spending that kind of money for that minimal parking. And this parking lot was to accommodate another request by Big John's Pizza, a little larger parking, mainly for their employees down there. I mean, they're parking down there right now, all kind of helter-skelter. Plus, it also allowed for access to the DTE gate valve gate.
Right.
Their dumpster, you can kind of see that in the corner, as well as semi-deliveries of their product.
And that's going away though.
That would be going away. So I'm not sure how much parking we really need on this site when just across the street we're going to have additional parking, double the size.
So you're going to double the size at the Goodrich parking?
Yep.
So it's
Yep.
Yeah, I support eliminating that parking, and maybe getting to Steve's point, it'd be a nice spot for some, some trees and things. That corner, there's a lot of traffic, a lot of stop cars, other businesses that are a little bit more, different in nature than like Lakeshore Marina. Kind of focus the energy toward the lake and toward the highlights, which I think is in the city plan originally, correct? I mean, the whole idea of the whole project was to engage that part of our community to bring people to it, right?
Yep, connect the downtown to the waterfront.
Like it or not, the frontage on Colby runs on the 4-lane highway to get, talking about you know, maybe it's better to move that parking up closer to there rather than walkway. I mean, that's walkway along a 4-lane highway. It's not probably, maybe okay to sit chairs for a parade when it's slow, but the rest of the year, it's pretty tough.
Yeah, we will probably, if not required, we will probably give back the right-of-way to MDOT. You know, it's mainly, I mean, their building face on the east side is pretty much right there at the property line. So that parking lot, we would be envisioning getting rid of all the parking up top, as well as the building, and then doing whatever we're doing on our own property.
Yeah. Because we don't need that much parking, I don't think.
With this drawing that we're looking at, are we agreeing that we don't need or want this other parking lot?
That's what it sounds like, yes.
That would certainly be my
Yeah.
wish. I gotta believe that with the removal of the Big John's building, that the MDOT would certainly want their right-of-way back, and so that would, I mean, I don't envision a whole lot being up there.
Right.
Right.
It's not a big chunk of property, but it's another piece that adds to the whole.
As far as the drawing goes, you talked about seating areas, and is it, I guess I'm guessing that the dark areas on the edge are where you would envision seating? Where, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're
Right here, like here.
I think more that teardrop kind of spot up top.
The stairwalk, the walkways?
I'm sorry, Steve, where?
On the bottom where the walkway is?
Yes, along the edges of the walkways.
Dark
Yeah,
lines
yep.
on the drawing?
Yeah. It's basically a seat wall along the edge of that walkway.
That's what I was kind of guessing, but.
And then at the top, there was a seating area that we had envisioned, like an outdoor eating area, because we were making, again, some accommodations for outdoor eating right next to a restaurant.
And we've talked about some other amenities, apparently outdoor cornhole, you can have those year-round. Some high-top tables, some game tables, some picnic tables. So if people want to gather there, they've got the amenities to do so.
You'd like that, to me, there's no way we can put too much seating down there. I mean, if we want people to come down there, offering them a comfortable place to sit is the first thing to get that to happen.
Well, we'll take some of these ideas. We'll work with Dan and his staff to come up with some preliminary plans and kick them back and forth a little bit.
All right, Scott, we'll move on to new business, chamber contract.
Yep, it's time to renew the chamber contract. Recommendation is a 3-year for 18.5.